Okay, so now we're gonna run through barbell and dumbbell push press, as well as a strict press, because the beginner program just has a strict press, and then an overhead static hold with both the dumbbells and the barbells. Cool? So the biggest thing with a overhead press is that, remember, it is a full body movement, okay? And we wanna make sure that everything stays nice and stacked. We never wanna be extending through that low back to get that weight up. So when we see that happening, that means that the weight is too heavy. Drop your weight, okay? So when we do an overhead strict press, again, you know, your feet can be anywhere from hip width to shoulder width. The angle of your foot position just depends on what's comfortable for you. Everyone has different hip anatomy, especially us women who have a wider pelvis. Our hips are very different internally with our anatomy. So some people might be very comfortable, right, with feet pointing straight forward in a narrow stance. Some might like it out a little bit, but that press is gonna be anywhere typically between hip width to shoulder width with your feet, okay? We want to make sure that we are using our whole body. It is a full body movement. It's a compound movement. So I'm actually driving my quads back, right? So I'm thinking about like pulling my kneecaps up. I want to make sure that I have good quad contraction there. I'm squeezing my glutes, right? I'm keeping that rib cage tucked. I'm going to stack or get my shoulder blades in that good stacked position, right? A big breath in, and then I'm driving straight overhead. Again, from the side, my body is a nice straight board, okay? I'm not letting my rib cage flare, and I'm not extending through my low back. If we feel any of that, lower the weight. If you have any low back pain or issues, talk to me. In the beginners, I have you guys doing it in half kneeling, and part of that is to protect that low back, okay? So when you're doing it in half kneeling, right? I'm gonna do a little bit from the side here. The leg is down, the arm is pressing, okay? I'm driving my back toe into the ground. I'm squeezing my glutes. I'm keeping my rib cage tucked. From here, that weight is right in front of my shoulder. My elbow is slightly in front of my rib cage. I don't want it back here. I'm losing that stacked position, okay? So I'm here, I'm creating tension through my other arm versus letting it hang. I'm taking a big breath in, and I'm driving straight up overhead. My bicep is gonna end next to my ear. My rib cage is gonna stay tucked. My low back is not extending, okay? Two things that I don't ever want with an overhead press. I don't want that weight out in front of you. So from the side, right, I always want that bicep to end up next to the ear. My knuckles are towards the ceiling. It's not out here, right? If you don't have the shoulder range to get in that overhead press position, we're gonna give you a different exercise until we can get there. We're gonna work on that shoulder range of motion until you can get there, right? A landmine press is a great alternative. That's where the barbell is in the corner and you're pressing here versus straight up overhead, okay? If we're in standing, same thing. Rib cage is tucked, driving my quads back, glutes are engaged, elbows slightly in front, okay? Bracing through that core, creating tension through my other arm. Big breath in. Drive up, bicep next to my ear. I'm not extending through that low back. I'm not flaring that rib cage. And then I'm gonna actively pull that weight down, okay? If we're using two, right? Here we are, same exact thing. Quads drive back, squeeze my glutes. Big breath in, drive up. Make sure I'm not extending. Come back down. You can totally, right, drive up to the side or straight up to the front. Whatever you want. Should have picked a lighter weight to demo with. Because I'm not warmed up. Okay. Barbell. Same type of thing. Make sure everything's nice and stacked overhead and that you're getting that shoulder joint where those ears are versus out in front. That's gonna be super important for that overhead static hold. That static hold is gonna work on our shoulder stability. It's gonna work on our thoracic spine strength and stabilization. It's a huge for our core stability. It's also gonna load our spine, which is super important for bone health, okay? Your overhead press is one of the best exercises loaded wise to help build spinal bone density. So super important here, okay? So I'm gonna show you the overhead press coming out this way just so you can see better. I don't want you doing that typically. I want you to make sure that you always rack and on-rack that barbell, right? In this position. Coming directly out from the rack and then back in, okay? The height of the barbell, it should kind of hit you anywhere, you know, collarbone to nipple line in here. The biggest thing is we always want to make sure that we're clearing the J hooks just a little bit, right? I don't want to have to press up and over that J hook, and I don't want it to be so low that I'm like in a squat position to get it up. So play with that. But literally, my barbell, when I'm standing with it, is just cruising over the top of that J hook, okay? The most important part for that, same thing with your squat, is I don't want you to have to look when you're re-racking your barbell, because when you look, the barbell is gonna follow you, right? So super important too when you have a heavy loaded back squat or front squat, right? Your overhead press isn't gonna be that heavy, but back squat and front squat can get pretty heavy. I never want you to look, because then that weight, however much weight you have on that side, could pull you down to that side and could get you into trouble or could hurt your low back. So get into the habit where you know where those J hooks are so that you're just clearing them with the barbell so you don't have to look. You're literally walking that barbell into the rig until you hear it click, and then you're setting it down. So again, right, I'm here, step back, to on rack, I'm literally gonna hit it, set it down. Never even look, okay? So now I'm gonna turn around just so you can see, but again, I don't want you coming forward out of the front, out of the rack. I always want you reversing out, walking it back in, okay? So, when you get the barbell out, you're gonna come out in kind of in a front rack position. So my hands are gonna be just outside of my shoulders. I kind of take my thumbs, line them up just outside my shoulders. Again, I don't wanna be too wide. Right, so just outside of my shoulders, my hands are gonna come onto that barbell, my elbows are gonna come up to help me lift that barbell off the rack. I would take a step and a step, right? From here, I'm gonna drive those quads back, I'm gonna squeeze those glutes, I'm gonna keep that rib cage tucked, I'm gonna point my knuckles so they're facing the ceiling, big breath in, I'm gonna get my head out of the way, right? And I'm gonna drive up overhead. At the top, my head's coming through, my biceps again are by my ears. The barbell's not out here in front. It's direct or stacked directly up over top. My rib cage is tucked. I'm not extending through my low back. I'm gonna actively pull that barbell back down, right? Drive my quads back, squeeze my glutes. Big breath in, rib cage stays tucked. Move my head up and through, right? And then come back down. When we talk about a push press is a power movement. It's explosive. So we're looking to get those type 2 fibers to really fire quickly and be explosive. The weight for your push press doesn't need to be super heavy because again, we're looking to be explosive. We're looking to move through the movement quickly, but with good form. So what I tend to see is sometimes people will load it up too heavy that it slows down their ability to move through the movement pattern quickly, right? Therefore, their form breaks down. So when we're doing any type of explosive movement pattern, again, I'm not too worried about you going heavy. I'm more worried about you being able to perform the exercise with good form and an explosive manner. Okay, so that's why the RPEs for the push press, if you're doing them, you know, this first day, is a 6. It's not very heavy. At the end, I should be able to do at least 4 more reps with good form, right? If I'm struggling to get that last rep up or 2 reps, it's too heavy. Bring it down. Again, we're not looking to build a ton of strength here. We did deadlifts first, right? That's our big powerhouse strength movement of the day. This is to be quick and explosive and work on those type 2 fibers that we're losing, okay? So, a push press is a dip and a drive. So it's a quick dip through the legs to be able to create, you know, power to drive up. Okay, so from the side, I'm literally gonna think, right, if I'm here, I'm gonna dip down, and then as I come up, I'm gonna use that momentum and that force to drive those dumbbells or that barbell off of my chest, right? So if I do it in fast time, dip drive, right? Dip drive. At the top, I'm gonna lock everything out. It's as if I was going to do a broad jump into the ground, right? Or if you're a kettlebell swinger, it's that top of your kettlebell swing, okay? That's your top of that movement. So again, it's a small dip through those knees, right? It's a dip drive. So with the barbell, I'll show you both directions. I'll show you this direction first. So, I'm gonna unrack that barbell. I'm gonna take my steps back. From here, I'm gonna create a bunch of tension. I'm gonna get those knuckles facing up towards the ceiling. Big breath in. I'm gonna dip, drive, right? Pull it back down. Dip, drive. Lock everything out at the time. One more time. Dip, drive. Show you from the other side. Just outside those shoulders. Right, rack, step, step. Knuckles to that ceiling. Again, big breath in, dip, drive. Pull it back, watch your face, right? Dip, drive. I'm not extending through that low back. Right, I'm keeping it nice and tight. One more time. Dip, drive. Okay? We do it with dumbbell, same thing. All right, I'm gonna start here. Big breath in, dip, drive. Dip, drive. Using my legs, dip, drive. And then locking it out at the top, okay? So let's move on to that static hold. So if you're in the advanced barbell group, you're gonna do it with the barbell, if you can. If you're not, you're gonna do it with dumbbells. Biggest thing there, just like our finish of that dip drive or that overhead press, you're gonna try and maintain that position the whole time, okay? So you're thinking about keeping your shoulders packed, right? Those arms are back in line with your ears. At the same time, my rib cage is staying tucked. I'm squeezing my glutes. I'm driving my quads back. I'm keeping everything as stacked as I can and creating as much full body tension as I can to hold that position. I know I gave you a 20-second goal for week 1, but do what feels right to you, okay? I don't want you going much over that, but if less than 20 is where you're at, that's perfectly fine, all right? Because we will progress that time as we go on. So when we're doing it with the dumbbells, you can either strict press it up and hold, or you can push press it up, right? So either way is perfectly fine. But if I'm here, right? So I'm gonna push press the weight up, okay? I'm gonna stack that rib cage. I'm gonna drive my quads back. I'm gonna squeeze my glutes. I'm gonna activate my core. I'm gonna think about keeping my shoulders packed. My biceps are next to my ears. My knuckles are to the ceiling, and I'm holding. Okay? A little bit of shake is good. You want to feel like everything's really working to stabilize. If you start to extend through that low back, you start to really flare that rib cage, you can't get in this position and your arms start drifting forward, drop the weight. It's perfectly fine, right? Use a lower weight, okay? Or hold it for a shorter time. Perfectly fine to do. So let's do for the barbell. Let me come so you can see a little bit more stacked position here. Okay, so I'm gonna unrack my barbell, right? Step, step. I'm gonna take my big breath in. I'm gonna drive those quads, use those glutes. Either way, you can push press it or you can press it. Doesn't matter to me. From here, knuckles to the ceiling. Rib cage stays stacked. Squeezing my quads, squeezing my glutes. Shoulders are packed, right? Biceps are by those ears. I'm checking in with my form the whole time. The whole time I'm thinking about, what is everything doing? Is it still stacked? Am I still activated? Am I using that core? Am I extending through my low back? Okay? Again, if any of that happens, drop the weight, bring it down, rest. Rest is good. Cool? Okay, so we've done deadlift. We've done strict press. We've done a push press. We've done a static overhead hold. I want to next go into your lateral step up. So, make sure you can see me here. Okay. Biggest thing with lateral step up is your knee position. Okay? Knee and hip. So, our glutes, our hip control what's happening at the knee joint. All right? So, I don't care how tall the box is, and I don't care how much weight you are holding. What I care about first and foremost is what is happening at your knee and at your hip. Okay? Because we need good neuromuscular control before we ever load anything up. So just really make sure you have good hip and knee control before you add weight. Start on a lower box. Do body weight. Do it in front of a mirror because this is super important to see. Okay? From the side, we really want to make sure that we're loading our glutes, our hips. Again, those are our powerhouse. So I'm going to have a hinge here so I can get more glute. Right? If I don't have a hinge, then I'm going to drive more forward on that knee. It's just going to be more quad dominant. Nothing wrong with training our quads or our knee going over our toe. That is perfectly fine. And we do train that a lot because we do that in everyday activity. But for the step ups, right, we really want the glutes to be doing it for us because there's other ways that I'm going to load your quad that won't put a lot of stress on that knee joint. Especially if this is new to you or you have arthritic knees. Let's load the glute. Let the glute be the powerhouse here, okay? So, I'm gonna hinge my trunk forward over that front thigh, right? So I can load that glute, and here's where my step up is. When I come down, same thing. I wanna load back into my hip to step down, right? So versus being straight upright, okay? I wanna think about hinging forward to bias my glute. I'm gonna drive straight up through kind of 75% of that heel, 25%, or sorry, 75% of midfoot back, 25% forward again to get more glute. Same thing, I should have mentioned this, when you're doing your deadlift, about 75% of your weight is midfoot back, 25% of your weight is midfoot forward. I never want toes to leave contact, so we want to make sure we have good contact, you know, that tripod of that foot, base of big toe, base of pinky toe, and heel all stay in contact with the ground, but to bias the hips or the glutes a little bit more, we do it on about 75% kind of midfoot back as we're coming up and down, okay? So from the front, when I talk about that knee caving in, what we don't want is for that knee to cave in, cross midline over that big toe. That's gonna grind out that inside of that knee joint, and it's not gonna feel good over time, okay? Typically when we get arthritic pain in our knees, it's in this area. It's this medial area. So we wanna avoid that constant inward kind of rotation, what we call valgus movement force on that knee joint, right? We see this a lot in females, mainly because we have wide hips, a large Q angle. So that angle from our hips down to our knees is more like this. For men, it's more straight, okay? So really, really pay attention to that. Super important. So as I'm coming to stand up, right, I'm gonna watch that knee joint, make sure it doesn't cave in. How am I gonna do that? I'm gonna use my glutes. So I'm gonna hinge forward. I'm gonna think about kind of screwing my knee out slightly with my glutes, okay? So I'm gonna lean forward. I'm gonna drive that knee kind of towards like second to fourth toe, right? 75% of my weight is back. Big breath in, and I'm gonna stand up, okay? Especially important as I come down. This is where we'll see a lot of that knee valgus occurring. So again, I'm gonna hinge that hip back. I'm gonna make sure that that knee doesn't cave in over that big toe. So again, hinge it forward, bias that glute, drive that knee out kind of second, third, fourth toe or so, right? Drive up, watch that knee position. Same thing, really pay attention to that knee position as you come back down, okay? Same exact thing with going forward, a straight step up, right? So if I was gonna come directly on towards you, if I'm here, doing a regular step up and not a lateral step up, it's the same exact things. I'm watching that knee position. I'm making sure it's not caving in. I'm stepping straight up, Super important on the way down. I'm controlling that descent, really making sure that knee doesn't cave in. Again, I don't know if my hands are in the way there, right? Watch my knee, right? Here I come down. What I don't want, watch my knee. That, on the way down, that. Okay, that's pretty exaggerated. I'll show you one that's maybe not as exaggerated. So I'm here, that, that. Don't want that, okay? Same thing when we're doing any kind of jump and landing. When I jump and I land, right? I always wanna make sure my knees go out. Versus that. Cool? So start with a low box. Make sure you're doing it in front of a mirror so you can really watch that knee position, okay? All right, cable or banded lat pull down? It's kind of loud. Hopefully you can still hear me. So, if you have a cable machine or access to a cable machine, you're going to perform the cable version. So seated, cable, lat pull down, okay? If you're like me and have a home gym, I go to the gym too, but sometimes I do workouts here, I'm gonna use a band. So I'm gonna show you what a band looks like. So, I'm gonna anchor that band up high. It could be on your door, it could be on a rig, I don't know, anything high, whatever else you got. If you don't have somewhere to anchor it up high or fear that it's gonna slide through your door up high, I highly recommend getting a door band anchor, or it's like band door anchor, whatever that is, but it's off Amazon. And I'm happy to send you a link. I don't have any affiliation. They're like $8, but you can literally then put a band anywhere along the side of the door or the top of the door. The band hooks in a little anchor. It's great, okay? So from here, we're gonna do a standing hinged forward lat pull down. So I have my band anchored up right there, my rig. Okay. I'm gonna be in a little bit of a hinge pattern versus straight up nice and tall. So straight up nice and tall, we'll kind of use a little bit more when we do our tricep extensions, but our lats are these big guys, okay? They're like what you use for a pull-up or anything like that. This lat comes and attaches down into my low back. So I'm gonna be in a nice hinge position. I wanna get those shoulders down away from my ears, so think of that anti-shrug. I'm gonna hold on to that band, right? And I'm gonna pull down and back. And I'm gonna actively think about using my lat muscle, right? That mind to muscle connection is huge. So I want you to actively think about like what muscles am I activating, am I firing to perform this motion, and you will get better muscle activation, okay? And a lot of times the slower, the better. Be very intentional with your movements. Go slower, focus on what you're actually activating and lifting, and I promise you, you will get better results, okay? So, I'm here, I'm slightly hinged, core is engaged, shoulders are anti-depressed, they're rolled down and back from my ears, right? Big breath in. And I'm kind of rowing down towards like front pockets or so, okay? Control it coming back up. Pull down, squeeze those lats in the back. Control it coming back up. Cool? If you don't have something this high, you can totally perform this exercise in a tall kneeling position. So I'll show you that. So, right? So I'm here, it's just slightly different. I'm gonna roll those shoulders down and back, and I'm gonna pull down and back. Ribcage stays tucked, squeezing my glutes. Here I'm gonna pull down and back. Really focusing on your lats. So kind of from this angle, right? As I pull down, I'm coming back. Cool. All right, so our last one is our tricep extension. So again, option to do it on a cable machine. Okay, option to do it with a band. So my band. Here I'm a little bit more upright. I'm still engaging that core. I'm gonna be slightly back from that band. Okay, slight hinge, knees are soft. Elbows are packed in on my sides and my ribcage, shoulders are down and back. From here, the only thing that is moving is I'm extending my elbows. extend the elbows, okay? I'm not letting the elbows come away from my body, right? So this isn't it, right? Elbows stay locked in and glued. And then I'm really focusing on that tricep extension at the bottom. Tricep is this guy. So really focus when you're here. I'm gonna squeeze that tricep super hard. Cool. Our tricep muscle is the first muscle that we lose muscle mass in as women. You know, like, remember your teacher chalking on the board? They don't write it on chalkboards anymore, do they? I don't think so. But, you know, don't they call it like 5th grade teacher wing flap, bat flap? I don't know. But super important. We got to train our triceps. They help push us up, right? We want to get them strong again. And we don't want this teacher thing. I don't know. But same thing you do with a cable or with a band. So hopefully that helped you clear up a few things for your first workout. I will do this for the other 1, 2, 3 workouts in this first week. And you can watch this video and send me any questions you have. Cool? All right. Cheers, ladies. Enjoy.